This is, as you guys would have seen and signed up to, our How to Survive a CASA audit. So it's a couple of questions throughout the weeks, and we get some really good feedback from everyone. And a lot of it was to do around, yeah, I guess understanding what a CASA audit is, and also how to prepare for one as well. So really excited for this week. We think there's some, looks like varying people at different levels, some just beginning their program and trying to understand what CASA is and what they do, and then all the way up to people quite large, quite complex, and really down to those fine nuts and bolts to make sure they keep operational and definitely don't get shut down. So really excited for today. So we've got Wayne and we've got Glenn joining us today from UAV Group. So they've proficient experience. I'll let them speak for themselves in just a second, but definitely the experts that will help us talk a little bit more about this. So it'll be about half an hour or so today, and make sure we put your questions in on the chat as we go through everything, and we can follow them up at the end. But without further ado, I might hand it over to whoops, maybe if I click this one, there we go. Over to Wayne. So Wayne, thanks for coming along, mate. Can you maybe introduce yourself, a bit of background?
Okay, yep. Thanks for having us, Alex. It's a pleasure to be here. Okay, I started my aviation career some 40 odd years ago with an interest in aviation because my father was in the Air Force. So aeroplanes are in the blood. And during the time in aviation, I've owned a couple of flying schools, an aircraft maintenance organisation, and I've written a considerable number of manuals for various charter operators around Australia and various government authorities. I was external auditor for the University of South Australia and a few other organisations. I've got qualifications in aviation quality and safety lead auditor accreditations and quality auditor accreditations in accordance with ISO 9000. I got involved in drones because I had a sailing boat, and I thought this is a great way to take some pictures of the boat sailing. So that started my interest in drones, and I also have a passion for aviation safety and compliance because during my aviation career, I've been involved in a couple of incidents, well, not personally, but I've had a couple of incidents to my aeroplanes, or when one of them where I actually was in the aeroplane at the time. Which we'll probably talk about a bit later on, but they got my interest in safety and compliance because both of them were caused by outside factors that could have been avoided. So, and we'll talk about that a bit later on as we go into the webinar.
Fantastic.
So,
Thanks.
yeah.
Appreciate it. Oh, it's a great background. So probably the most logical place to start. Let's maybe dive in with the fundamentals. So I guess can you maybe walk us through a bit what a CASA audit is in context, obviously manned, unmanned, aviation. What does it involve? And I guess typically, yeah, frame what people can expect when they have one themselves.
Okay. The basis of a CASA audit really is to check that you are compliant with the regulations and also with your procedures manual. If you've said in your procedures manual you're going to do ABC, then they expect to come out and look at you and see that you're performing ABC. If you've said that you are going to record XYZ after a flight, they will be looking to see that you've recorded XYZ. So basically, it really is a compliance and a safety audit to check that you are, because that's what they've approved when they gave you your piece of paper that said it gave you your REOC, so to speak. They've said that they've agreed that what you've written up in your manual is what they expect to see, and you're going to operate in a safe manner, and you're going to do these things to operate safely and within the law. So that's what they're looking for, that you're operating in accordance with your manual and in accordance with the regulations. How long does it go for? That will depend entirely on how big your organisation is. You know, if you're a little one-man band that only does a few flights every month, then you might get away with a half a day. If you're a large organisation operating a drone of 130 kilos and have complex operations, or for instance, BVOLOS, you may find that it might go for a couple of days. And if you've got lots of drones and lots of operators around Australia, or if you're perhaps a training provider, your audit might last for a bit longer than a day. It might be a couple of days. When does it happen? Well, it'll definitely happen if you have an incident or an accident that warrants the attention of the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, the ATSB, because whenever you report to ATSB, they send a little note off to their mates CASA going, these people have had an incident or an accident. So you can normally, if it's a serious one, you can expect a letter in the mail saying, we've decided we're going to audit you in the next 20 odd days. Is this time convenient? And they'll come out and have an audit. As far as their regular audit process goes, they have, like most organisations, and just like in your safety analysis, they've got a risk matrix, and they draw lines on it and go, okay, this guy operates one drone, he only does minimal work, or he does stuff that's really insignificant, so we don't want to visit him very often. But you find an operator that's got a lot of drones or has complex operations, well, his risk profile is a little higher, so you'll find that you'll probably get one a whole lot sooner than the guy that only takes photographs of real estate. So there is no fixed time. It's where you sit in CASA's risk profile, or if you've unfortunately had one of those horrible things called an incident or an accident.
Gotcha. No, thanks for sharing that. And sort of curious, I guess, for some of the people on the call today, they might have, a group of say 10 pilots, maybe a lot of that ex-cat, some sort of reoc flights. And it sounds like CASA sort of says, hey, are you available in the next couple of weeks? We're going to come in. When they do come in, what does that look like? As they say, you hand me all your PDFs and give me all your flight logs and give me access to everything, or what does that sort of process look like on those day or so?
Okay, I think that the CASA audit involves basically it basically has three phases. There is the phase where they will send you a letter saying we're going to come down on the 1st of May and do an audit for you, and you'll respond and go, yeah, that's fine, see you at 9 o'clock. Now, in the background, CASA will be digging out your operations manual, which you have provided to them, and hopefully, and this is one of the traps for young players, is if you've had an amendment, made an amendment to your manual where you've noticed the regulations changed or you've changed the procedure, you are required to send that off to CASA through Reg Services. If you haven't done that, CASA are looking at a manual that's different to the one you've got. And then you've tripped over your first hurdle because you're not operating in accordance with the manual that CASA have approved and agreed to allow you to operate under.
Gotcha.
So, that's one of the easiest traps to fall into in an audit is not have the addition of the manual. That if you're using version 2 and you've only given CASA version 1, they're going to audit you on version 1 because that's what they've got.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So make sure that if you get the letter from CASA saying you got an audit, make sure they've got the current version. And if not, lickety split, fix that problem.
Get it to them straight away.
Exactly. And then you've got half a chance. Sometimes the regulator is a bit, because it is cumbersome and it's such a large organisation, sometimes when you send it in, it doesn't quite get to the man doing the audit soon enough. So you might also want to send him an email going, by the way, I just lodged a new version, and perhaps send him a copy of it as well. Slightly outside the process that they like to use, but generally gets the job done.
Perfect.
So that's the first part of it. Then and then the second part is the actual on-site audit, where I'll talk about that a bit later in a couple of slides down. Actually, if we can go through that a bit later on, that'd be good.
Perfect. Great. Yeah. Well, awesome. That was somewhat ties to my next question. Yeah. So, what are the common pitfalls that you see or you hear from people when helping on this process? So
okay.
Yes. What are they sort of missing? What's all the common patterns you see?
Okay. I know when you're involved in aviation safety, and as I ended up until a few months ago, I was an aviation safety manager for a large flying school until I retired from that position. The biggest pitfall is a thing called human factors. In safety, it's where it's just the human element gets involved. The biggest pitfall is us, because we have all these wonderful procedures and policies, and we say we're going to regularly. In fact, most REOCs will say that the chief remote pilot will review the manual every 12 months. So we've said we're going to do that every 12 months, and we've said that at the pre-flight we're going to do this, and we're going to use this checklist, and post-flight we're going to record these things, and the human factors come in. The wife rang up and said, oh, look, on the way home, get me some milk. So you think, oh, well, I'll do that tomorrow because the wife wants some milk in a hurry. And you go home and forget to put that bit in. And then you go, that's okay, because I'll do it first thing in the morning. I'll remember to do that. And first thing in the morning, you walk in the door and Fred says, oh, this fell over and we got this problem. And you go and fix that. And all of a sudden, you've forgotten to put it in. And so it's the human factors. It's us being human that causes the biggest issues. And those biggest issues are where we don't record the things we said we were going to record. or we adopt a policy and a procedure which fits what we do fantastic. It's a much better way of doing it than what we wrote in the manual in the first place, but we don't change it.
Mm,
That's, if you found a better way to do something, it's still legal and compliant, and that's not what your manual says, change your manual. That's because the CASA man's going to open your manual and go, you said you were going to do ABC, and I'm reading it, and ABC, and I went out and watched you do that flight, and you did EFG.
mm, mm.
But that's not what you said you were going to do. And one of the lines that I learned long ago when I was having an audit, and I had a free and frank discussion with a CASA inspector, and he said, "You understand that an operations manual is really you supplying the rope for us to hang with.
Mm.
So if you say you're going to do something, do it. And if you change what you're going to do, change it in the manual so
Mm.
that it reflects what you actually do, because that's what it is. It is, as a lot of CASA guys will tell you, I should be able to walk into your business tomorrow as a newbie, not knowing anything about what you do, read your operations manual, and go and do a flight in compliance with everything that you say you do. And if you tell me that I'm not doing it right, I go, but hold on, this is what your manual said.
Mm, mm.
And that's where the CASA guy says, well, just tell us what you do, as long as it's compliant, of course.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So, yeah, so it's the human condition that causes the biggest problem. And then, of course, what happens, answering the last question on the slide, what happens when you don't address them? Well, you then end up with a non-compliance, and you have to answer those three questions. What have you done to immediately fix the problem? Well, I wrote the manual to reflect what we actually do. What was the root cause? I was tardy. I didn't change my manual when I should have, and that was because I didn't understand the process. Human factors. I got sidetracked, and it didn't happen. Not good excuses, but the truth.
Mm.
And then, what processes have you put in place? Well, I've I don't know, I've addressed it, and I've decided I won't do it again. I understand the ramifications of it now, and I'm more aware of my obligations to do this correctly.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's all the ops manual, and as you said, that you give them the rope to hang yourself. So make sure you change the rope if you're going to change anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Make sure it's soft rope.
Yeah, make sure it's nice. Fantastic. Awesome. Okay, we'll jump to the next one. So I guess we caught up the other day about this too. You were saying that simple 5 questions to really assess whether you really need an audit or not. And obviously, and just to sort of clarify there, which we'll get to in a second, is there's the CASA audit, as you said, that's
Yes.
their version of it, and then there's stuff that you guys do, which we'll talk about in a second, of sort of pre-audit, so the drone program audit, to assess everything before that happens with sort of CASA. So yeah, I'll hand over to you to go through these 5 questions.
Okay, good, excellent. These 5 questions are here for you guys to ask yourselves and see what answers you come up with, and see whether you think that the answers you come up with are going to be acceptable. And look at it in the context of, you've just had a serious incident, your drone has just dropped into a childcare centre, and you've cut the arm of a young kid with the blade of your drone. Okay, so if there's an incident or an accident, what evidence do you have that you are compliant? You can say, I've got a REOP, that's cool, but what have you done above and beyond to exercise your duty of care to make sure your business is the best it can be? When you say I'm compliant, and it's basically, and you go, oh, I've checked my manual, I did my review 12 months ago. That's good. That's fantastic. But really, it's checking your own homework. And the example I used the other day was, how many of us have written an email to someone and proofread it ourselves and sent it off, and then 5 days later you've looked at it again just to make sure you know what you said, and you go, oh, how did I let that spelling mistake go through, or how did that bit of poor grammar get through?
Yep.
It's because you checked your own homework, and you put in in your little brain, put in what you thought was supposed to be there, not what was actually there. So it really is good practice, and probably best practice, to have an external person come and check your operation and your operations manual to see you're compliant. And that will also give you some other benefits that we'll talk about in a minute. how do you stay up to date with ever-changing software and technology? This is where I'm going to talk about my one of the things that got me into aviation safety. I was happily flying along in my little aeroplane, and the engine stopped. And when we actually, and it was a single engine aeroplane, which was made a bit more pressing at the time. The engineers had received a bulletin from the engine manufacturer saying that you should check this bit here, because if you don't, this is probably going to happen. And unfortunately, in my case, it did happen, and the engine stopped. Now, it was a bit of new information that came out, and every time you service an aeroplane, you're supposed to check for the current instructions from the manufacturer. They neglected to check the current instructions and sign the plane out after being serviced, saying it's good to go. When if they actually looked at the current set of instructions and the current information available, they would have checked this part in the aeroplane. They would have removed it and put the new part in, and I wouldn't have had to park the aeroplane somewhere other than an airport. So yeah, so in the drone sphere, it's a dynamic and growing space that regulations are constantly changing. Software is currently being updated. How many times have we taken a drone for a fly and it says, "Oh, software needs updating," and we go, "Oh, I haven't got time for that. I've got to do the job," and you take off. What about if that piece of software was fixing up a fault in the geofence? And the plane, once again, your drone goes careering off into, worst case scenario, the childcare centre. That's the stuff where you get front page of the paper, and that's something no business wants in this context. So it's keeping up to date with your software and version control and maintenance data. There might be a bulletin coming out that says, "Look, this batch of batteries are prone to overheating and bursting into flame." So, and that, of course, in the worst case scenario, is going to happen over the childcare centre. It won't happen when it's over somebody's swimming pool. It'll happen. It'll happen.
Worst case scenario, yeah.
Worst case scenario. Murphy's alive and well, I can assure you.
Yeah.
and takes a great interest in the aviation sector.
Yep.
So yeah, and point 3, what have you got in place to prove to you use your duty of care or best practice? Well, if you've got an outside contractor come in, that's a great little tick in the box to go, look, somebody else besides me, I didn't check my own homework, somebody else checked my homework and found me to be compliant. The process do we have in place to validate your compliance with the current regulations and the note their insurance claims? We all understand that, of course, it's a requirement of your insurance policy that you operate inside the law. So if you do not operate inside the law, your policy is void. So it's handy to know that you're operating. And because the drone space is so dynamic and ever changing, there's new bits of technology and things coming out every week. The regulator has to change the rules as things change. And so you've got to keep up with it. So you need to have some process where you at a regular interval check it or have someone check it for you. Now, the good thing about us is, sadly, Glenn and I eat and breathe this stuff, so we're reading them all the time. It's my bedtime reading, I say, and so it doesn't say a lot about my life, but yeah, reading the regulations, barrel laughs.
Someone has to. I'm glad it's you.
Okay, and what have you done well, hopefully what you've done to prepare for a random audit or an audit following a serious incident is you've already had an audit by an external contractor, namely us, and we found you to be compliant. And you also, basically, if you have us come and do one, you're going to be comfortable and understand the process. It's not going to be a new and scary thing where you go, "Oh, I wonder what they're going to do." It's going to be a very similar process as a CASA audit, right up until the last part, which is where we differentiate from the CASA type audit. And I think we go on to talk about that a bit later on.
Perfect. I was going to say that's probably a very good transition. So yeah, keen to hear from you said before. Yeah, so there's the CASA audit that will obviously make sure we're compliant for ourselves, and then there's something that you guys do called the drone program audit. So what is that?
Okay, the drone program audit is effectively the same process as CASA, so that on day we'll ask you to pay for our services, and then we'll ask you to give us a copy of your current manual. So we'll ask for a copy of your operations manual, and we'll also in some operations ask for a copy of their drug and alcohol management plan to check that that's compliant as well. And in bigger or larger organisations, that they've got a safety management system as well. So depending how large your organisation is and what documents and processes you have in place, we ask for your manuals and your procedures to send us a copy of them. We'll check them for the current regulations, and also look at what processes you have for doing pre-flight, during flight, and post-flight, or how you're recording the renewal of your REOC, how you're recording the renewal of your drone registration. What internal triggers do you have for the renewal of your drone registration? It's a requirement to have your drone registered, and CASA will send you a little email saying it's time to re-register your drone. But if you've got an internal trigger in case the CASA system falls over, or that email gets missed, a lot of organisations don't. So we recommend that you have a trigger for that. So we look at that. Then we'll have the entry meeting, the exit meeting, and the audit in between. Glenn normally goes for a ride along on a flight with a drone and see how you operate. And then we'll have the exit meeting. We'll talk anything serious. We'll talk about there and then, and go, look, tomorrow you should operate your drone this way because the way you operated it wasn't really good and it's outside of regulations. So anything that's important and immediate, you get told about before you even leave, and you can start to operate in accordance with. Then we'll go away and write a report up. We'll give you the same kind of report that CASA gives you, non-compliance request, and answer those 3 questions we talked about before. Then we'll do some observations and some recommendations. Now, Glenn goes to all the conferences around Australia, around the world, and we see a lot of drone operators and operations, and we can say, look, you were doing this way. We've seen it done this way. We reckon that's a smarter way to do it, or a safer way to do it, but it's up to you. We're not telling you to do it that way. We're just saying, as an observation, we think industry best practice is this. So take it or leave it, your choice, but we've told you about it. And that's one of the benefits of our eyes being all around Australia. You get some input into perhaps a better way of doing something, or a safer way of doing something. And as I said, it's always up to the operator to decide what they want to do.
Yep.
So it's a bit of a health check, I guess, in that case. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, and how will it prepare you for a CASA audit? I think it will make you feel more comfortable for the audit when it turns up, because you'll have done one. You go, oh, yeah, I know how the process works. And I also know that I am up to date because these guys have had a look at me only, 6 months ago, 12 months ago. Not a lot's changed. We're all good to go. So I feel very comfortable about having CASA in 2 weeks' time, and I don't have to sweat.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Good. Paints a very clear picture. So let me go to so I guess looking at and maybe I'm just looking at time now, but because there's some really good questions that are starting to come through I would love to get to, but maybe for this one, maybe just sort of wrapping that up, I guess what are the repercussions? You mentioned before having a non-compliant from the CASA side of things. So I guess what are the repercussions of not sort of checking your own homework, or someone else checking your homework?
Look, the repercussions basically are the repercussions are your repercussions are going to be worse if you don't have someone check your homework. For instance, just to give you a quick example, because I appreciate we're starting to run out of time, is that if someone else checks your homework, it paints the picture for, if you're in the unfortunate position of having to end up in court, you need to paint the picture of you being the best and safest organisation in Australia. And if you go, I'll check my own homework and I'm really good, well, yeah, but if you can go, look, these guys are qualified aviation auditors. They've had years of experience, and they've checked us and found that we were compliant. And by the way, they've done a couple of audits with us, and this is what they've found. Here's the last couple of audit reports we've done because we care about safety. So, it paints the picture of a safe organisation, and therefore it makes it just that much harder for the prosecuting attorney to get his point across.
Absolutely. Fantastic. And So we'll go through. So I think we got one more slide here, just for maybe Glenn, I think, for before we dive in, because yes, there's a couple great questions there. Before we dive into that, because I know, yeah, for those who want to hang around at the end, or if there's any other points that anyone's looking for a drone program audit, I know the teams are doing some right now, but maybe I'll hand it to you, Glenn, if you want to maybe share a bit about what you guys do here.
Yeah, no worries. And I can see we're close to time, so just be really quick. Basically, like one said, it's just, you set up the drone operation years ago, did training years ago, manuals years ago. When did you last check? When did you get an external third party to come in, aviation audit of 30 plus years of experience? The drone program audit, several week engagement, in terms of the different costs. There's different categories depending on what drones you're using, depending on what approvals you've got. There's 5 different main types of categories. But basically, the cost in terms of depends on, if you're REOC, excluded CAT, maybe more than 25 kg, BV loss or visual line of sight. That depends on the price, but we always like to come back to, the price is sort of, less than initial consultation with a lawyer. That's really the benefit there. You're getting an audit. We like to say at the very least, you're getting an audit done in line with ISO 9001 QMS. But we always like to provide value. So we want the drone program audit, the cost of that. We want that to try to pay for itself in terms of give you that return on investment through identifying cost savings, giving you a real business benefit off the back of our drone program audit. Assessing more than just safety and compliance. We're coming on site. It's not just a remote assessment. And in terms of contact, I think there's a slide on the next page just with our marketing email address. If we do a Teams consultation, we can then, our 20, 30-minute Teams consultation, we can then give you a quote. And we're doing the partnership with Fly Freely in terms of that, knock $500 off for the drone program audit if you're a Fly Freely customer. So feel free to email us through. We can organize a team session and go from there.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, mate. And yeah, that's very generous. So I really appreciate that. We'll send out the recording at the end of all this as well. And then some other Glenn and Wayne's contact details as well. So if you want to get in touch with those guys or have any more questions from today as well. But I'll jump into questions because I think there's some interesting ones coming through, and I want to make sure we get to them all. So there's ones here. So Maria has come through and said, is there an audit template we could use to do our own internal evaluation?
No, probably not. I mean, your own internal audit is really read your manual and see whether or not you are doing what you said you'd do. And where there's a regulation, go into the regulations and check that it's still the current regulation. That's the simple way of doing an internal audit. But you've missed the yes, that's a good place to start, but you still missed the painting the picture of we really care because we actually paid someone from outside to do it as well. So you get the benefit, I guess, of if you do that and cross-check all those things and make sure you comply, then yes, you can say you're compliant because you've checked it yourself.
Yep.
But have you checked everything? And have you painted the picture that you just didn't check your own homework, somebody else checked it?
Perfect. I was going to say as well, Alex, there's a case study, sorry to interrupt, there's a case study next week. We can send out the invite. I forgot to mention that. So there's a case study, we can send out the invite. Anyone who wants it, reach out. It'll be a case study, one of our clients who completed a drone program audit, interviewing them, going through what they found, value of it, all that kind of thing.
Fantastic. Awesome. So yeah, so it sounds like going through your ops manual, obviously, and just making sure it's all up to date. The CASA has the same copy and you're following it to the letter of the law is probably the first check, and then there's some other ones after that. So fantastic. Great. There's another one here that said, perhaps a question. Here we go. Although having a REOC, 99% of our operations are X category. I always struggle with what level of documentation / risk would CASA expect of us, more along the lines of undertaking everything. So 99% of the works being XCAT, little documentation, or more along the lines of undertaking everything as fully REOC, i.e. fully documented JSAs for every single flight. Is someone able to answer that? So it sounds like they're doing, 99% of the operations are XCAT. So they're saying should we be more relaxed or be more stringent?
Correct. Okay. Yeah, the simple answer to that is, what have you got to lose? If you have got a business it's worth $1.50 and a drone that you don't care being sold off by the court to recoup finding against you because it's dropped into the childcare centre and slashed the little kid's arm, then you don't need documentation. You don't need proof of exercising your duty of care. No matter what happens, when in the worst case scenario, the drone drops into the childcare centre, slashes some little kid's arm, how are you going to defend yourself? Oh, I haven't got any procedures or processes. No, I don't keep any documentation. No, I wasn't aware that the battery was 10 years old and should have been replaced 5 years ago. Oh, sorry? Well, sorry probably won't cut it. Whereas if you have, we even got clients that operate totally in the under 2 kilo category, but they do. In fact, the client we got 2 months ago, we actually end up writing a manual for him, so that he actually had some procedures because he was a large organisation that did have a lot to lose, and someone would see them as an organisation. Well, let's sue them; they've got lots of money. So yeah, it's all well and good to say you're operating under that and you don't require it, and that's very true. You don't. But what have you got to lose, and what should you be protecting? Is the question that you should be asking yourself.
Gotcha. Okay. So it sort of sounds like, horse for courses, but if there's XCAT versus REOC, or what's the minimum? And a question maybe just on top of that as well. If someone is purely X category, what's the ideally more checking and more compliance is good, but is there sort of bare minimum that you'd sort of recommend that people do? Because I know there's a lot of the industry that is heavily X category as well.
Yeah, it's a large part of the industry, and as I said, if you've got a lot to lose, you should start documenting processes and procedures to prove that you, particularly in maintenance and particularly in recording your flights and who was operating the aircraft, and looking for maintenance faults in either the software or the drone in the drone itself.
Gotcha.
Because you need to be able to prove you exercise some kind of due diligence to make sure that the thing was operational.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, you are on the wrong side of the fence.
Perfect. Okay, so reducing risk, more documentation, and sort of noting down as best as possible your due diligence. So if that comes, regardless. Fantastic. Yeah. All right. Another one here. So we got a couple more coming through. We got David has asked, does UAV Group perform BARS audits?
We are BARS accredited. Yes. We don't do BARS audits because BARS audits can only be done by, I think, 4 companies around the world.
Right.
And BARS audits are performed by BARS accredited audit companies, and they have BARS accredited auditors come and do the audits for you. BARS was primarily started up in South Africa, I think, a number of years ago, when mining companies were losing their CEOs or their crews with monotonous regularity because the standard of aviation over there was a bit on the shallow side, and aeroplanes. So I thought, well, how can we improve the standards of the operators that we use to fly our crews in and out, or to fly, we as the CEO, well, sorry, he was on that flight last week. We've got a new CEO coming next week. So the CEOs all got together and decided that they should have their own standards, and they set up their own standards for the mining industry because they got sick of losing people, basically. And that did the mining industry around the world, because it involves some of the really big mining companies have adopted BARS as their audit standard for fixed-wing aviation, and at the moment they're morphing it into the drone space. It's interesting. We're doing one with them at the moment in the drone space, so I can report back on that later to see how it goes. That's next month.
Fantastic. That'll be great. So great. So then there was another one here. We've got more and more coming through. So we got what level of documentation is needed for an R&D RPA?
Deary me.
Might need some more context on that
a
question.
lot.
Prototype.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's a whole lot of detail missing in that question. Yeah.
So is that, so
I,
if we assume, by the sounds, I was going to say, if it says anonymous here, so whoever asked that question, if you maybe want to provide a bit more detail, and we can follow that one up. But it sounds like, so doing documentation needed for any research and development drone operations. I'm assuming by the sounds of that question.
well, okay, it still comes down to the basic pretext of all of this stuff. It's really all about providing and proving that you're operating safely. I mean, if you have a drone that has no guidance system in it whatsoever, and you're going to operate it in the middle of the CBD, it might be pertinent to have it on a tether. But so it's all about what it is and how big it is. Is it going to fly overhead a capital city without a pilot in it? As in, it's really big. It's a 2,000 kilo drone. I mean, I know there are light aircraft now that have systems in them that will allow them to fly as a drone. In fact, I think there's a university in Australia that's got a 172 that they can fly remotely, but they have a pilot in it just in case. I understand that that there was a large aeroplane flying around one of the capital cities recently, but one of the requirements was that it had a pilot in it at the same time. So
interesting.
Yeah, it's so it depends on the risk. It's all relative to the amount of risk involved, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would say for research and development, lots of paperwork to prove that it wasn't your fault. That's my answer to that question.
Due diligence, by the sounds of it.
Exactly. Yes.
Fantastic. Awesome. Another one here. So from Tim has asked, how do CASA view the micro drones, e.g. sub 250 grams, as they don't like them in the REOC?
Okay. The micro drones are viewed as this. I think they're small enough not to do a lot of harm. They allow them to operate close to aerodromes because they think if they come into contact with a real aeroplane, it's not going to do too much damage. But once again, I still maintain that even a small drone can do a lot of damage to a small child. Or for instance, I mean, a real example was there was one here a couple of years ago that flew into a window in Darling Harbour and it fell to the ground. That's fair enough. But luckily there was no one walking underneath where it fell to the ground. If there was someone underneath it when it fell to the ground, how is it going to hurt them? I don't know. But they're the things that you have to consider. It's as we talked about before, Murphy is alive and well in the aviation space, let me assure you.
Right. Okay. So it sounds like the still due diligence is still important, but obviously they're going to be less nervous of a 250 gram than they are of a 30 kilo drone. So less risk, but still needs to be taken seriously.
Yeah. A 30 kilo drone is going to guarantee some damage.
Yeah, absolutely.
A micro drone, it's a possibility.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. Then we got so there was okay, the next one. So I think we answered that one there. So John here said using management software like AVCRM, is this a good proof of use? Is it used properly during CASA audits? So it sounds like, is the software management tool play a role in the CASA audits by the sound of that, if I'm understanding that right?
Yes, it certainly does. If you have said that's how you record your information. If you've said, I use Fly Freely to record all my information and it's available, then that's great. If you said, I use another product supplier and you've changed software versions, then that's a bit of a grey area. If you said, I record it manually and you've gone to an automated system or a Fly Freely system, then once again, it's a bit of a grey area. But if you've actually said, oh, look, I use Fly Freely, but I forgot to pay my subscription last month, so I recorded it manually, and your documentation says you use an automated system or a digital system and you don't, once again, it's all about doing what you say you do. If you say that's what you use in your manual, fantastic. If you don't say that's what you use in your manual, you're naughty.
Gotcha. So the software AVCRM, Drone Logbook, Fly Freely. So it's a good way to do it. But again, as you said, everything comes back to the operations manual. So whatever you say in there, Can be an easy way to do it, but it needs to be documented and approved first.
Exactly. Correct. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. So then looks like we've got one more here. Feel free, anyone, if you've got any last questions, we've got one more to go. If there's no more, we might wrap up after this. But Mark has asked, what are the top 3 failures you've found or you find during audits? So it sounds like when you're doing all these drone program audits, what are the top 3 big no-nos you keep coming across?
Okay. The top 3, I would say, in the actual drone, when we go for a ride along, an extremely different view to what visual line of sight is to what our definition of visual line of sight is. I mean, just because you can see a spot in the distance doesn't really mean you actually still have control over you, or you might have control over it, but it doesn't matter. You can actually see what control is. Some people have this little spot in the distance. Go, there's my drone. You go, right now, you make it go in a given direction, and they or which way is it facing at the moment? Oh, hold on, I'll look at the camera. No, tell me by looking at the drone, because it's visual line of sight. And so, no, sometimes that would probably be one. The other one is the favourite one is the human factors one, where you've said you're going to do A, B, C, and you do A, B, but you forget to do C. You know, if you're only going to do A, B, and you think that's good enough, then say we only do A, B. Take the C out. It's where people have gone and written these wonderful procedures that sounds really good, and they make you look like you're the safest organisation in the world, but they don't do it. And then you've just, as we said at the very beginning, you've just handed them the rope to hang you with. Don't provide the rope if you don't want to get hung.
So make sure your expectations match your reality, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Correct. Really good way of putting it. Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. Awesome. And was there a third one there? So it was just the VLOS. The classic one is the regulation changes, or there's two. They're equal probably. Regulation changes, or you've decided that you've actually looked at you've gone, oh hell, I only actually do AB. I better write that in my manual. I'll cross C out because I don't do that anymore. But you forget to tell CASA. You know, when you change your manual, put it through Reg Services and get it sent off to the appropriate section of CASA. Awesome.
Which will be your Adelaide office or to the Sydney office or wherever it is that holds the control of your reel.
Great. That's a very handy 3 to know. Awesome. So get one here. So from Mark again. So why does CASA only allow 1 CRP per organization? Clearly no person can be on duty 24/7. What are your thoughts on that?
CASA, because it's the same reason when I was building a house, the smartest thing anybody told me was just get one person to be responsible for everything, and then you don't get, oh, Fred was going to do it, or Joe was going to do it, and I'm in the middle trying to sort out who it is that was responsible. No. You are responsible. You are the only person responsible. It is your problem. You fix it. So, you know, even in the manned aviation world, you only have one chief pilot. Or actually, I think these days it's in the flying school, it's head of operations, and it's in the charter world, it's head of operations, I think. So yeah, so they have, but yeah, there's only one person because it's their problem. Now you can delegate. There's no reason why you can't delegate various duties to someone else, but there is only one person responsible, so they've only got one person to go chase, because it's a really easy argument to go, oh no, Fred was going to do that. Oh no, that was Joe's area of responsibility. No. I like to keep their life simple. If we're going to jump on someone, we've got this bloke to jump on.
Yeah.
That's it.
It makes accountability much easier.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So I was going to say there's a few very large organizations, some government, some private, we've met with recently, that have this sort of senior remote pilot role that's emerging, of the CRP at the top, but then having, chief remote pilot, senior remote pilot, and then, as you said, at the end of the day, that chief remote pilot is still accountable, but they can delegate downwards with their own governance. Yeah.
You know, they're going to come and yell at the guy at the top of the tree, but he's going to pour the muck downhill a bit to the next bloke. You go, hold on, you You were supposed to do that. Here it is in our manual. It says it specifically, and you'll be required to have that in your operations manual, that I am the chief remote pilot, and I delegate this responsibility to Fred Nurks, who is my senior remote pilot or my senior base pilot in Sydney or in Brisbane or Cairns or wherever it might be. And you are responsible for do it. And it'll list it out. And so everyone is clear as to who is responsible for what. But yeah, CASA only like to go and jump on one person.
Yeah, I was going to say it makes their auditing much easier.
It does, yeah, exactly.
All right, we've got
send the nasty grams to one person.
It looks like everyone's still staying on the line, so I'm happy to keep going. There's a few more questions here, but I don't want to make sure I push it over the line. But we'll keep going if that's right with you guys. Got a few more to go here.
Fine.
So we got Wayne. You've got one here saying Wayne mentioned that an SMS would be required based on the organization's size and complexity. Could you expand on that?
Well, SMS is a safety management system, and CASA love to see, they love to see safety management systems because they are a good way of making sure, it's an extra underline of how safe your organisation is, and it's a requirement for 142 flying schools. It's a requirement for 138 charter or air operator certificates where they're carrying passengers around. And it's also a good look in the drone sphere. If you've got a complex drone operation and some heavier than 25 kilo drones, it's a good look to have a safety manager. It just gives you that extra tick in the box. And the exact point at which it comes in, where it's a requirement, I can't quite put my finger on the regulation at the moment, and I haven't got my little ready book next to me, so I can't tell you the answer where it actually drops in. But it's definitely a good look, and will give you ticks in the box if you've got one. And CASA already have lots and lots of information online. If you go into safety management systems, there is reams of paperwork. There's lots of little giveaways that they'll send you a little booklet. I think it's about 10 booklets in the pack. How to start your safety management system and what's involved and how to write it, and all the processes and procedures for that. Or you can pay some aviation manual writer like myself to write one for you.
There you go. Fantastic. All right, we've got couple more have just come through, but I might even just wrap it up. So those that have already submitted, we'll answer these, but we might just leave it there. And we said we can leave the guys' details there if you want to follow up with them afterwards, just to ask a couple more questions. So last couple here, we've got actually two that are very similar. So what is the regulation for FPV drones at the moment?
First person view drones. We might take that on notice, Wayne, and Alex, because FPV.
It's an evolving space, really.
Yeah, from the top of our head, FPV would fit within the weight categories that Cass has outlined, but we can confirm that. Steve, we're happy to reach out and answer that later.
I think it's still in the evolving.
Gotcha. So we got awesome. So Steve, Jared,
out for industry consultation, I think, in memory.
Gotcha. Awesome. So Steve and Jared will follow up that afterwards on that one. And then we've got last one. So how important is the flying ability of the CRP, which is then, and the second sentence is, should the CRP have logged hours of competency?
Yes. In fact, I think I know there is for a chief remote instructor, there's a requirement of 30 hours. The chief remote pilot, no, I don't. I mean, I don't think the regulations require the chief remote pilot to have logged hours, or CASA don't normally want to see the logged hours, because you've got to remember the chief remote pilot is not there for his flying ability, but he's there to make sure you are operating in accordance with the regulations and in accordance with the amount. In fact, the chief remote pilot's job is not to instruct people on how to fly, although he has the responsibility to make sure that his pilots are operating safely and in accordance with the regulations. He is there to be an administrator, and in the old world of manned aviation, the chief pilot used to be all things and normally be the guy with X number of hours in his logbook. But in the new world of aviation. It's far, CASA have even recognised that it's far more to do with management and running your operations manual and your procedures than it is to do with your flying ability. So no, I don't think there is a requirement for a chief remote pilot to have any hours, but there is a requirement for him to understand his manual. And when you do your chief remote pilot interview, you will be asked questions on your manual. You'll be asked questions on the regulations, and I think you'll also be asked to do the paperwork for like a job safety analysis for a particular flight over a particular area. They'll give you a longitude and latitude and say you've been required to do a solar panel inspection on this industrial block. What are you going to do and how are you going to prepare for it? And you come up with a scenario and deliver that to whoever it is that's assessing you. And they might ask you some questions like, how did you come up with that piece of information? Did you look at this? Did you notice that there was a light pole right in the middle of it? Oh, no. Well, you should have put that in there as a warning for your pilot going, mate, just remember there's a light pole right in the middle of it. Or there's a kindergarten next door, those kind of things, where you do your job safety analysis.
Great, fantastic. All right, that's I think that almost takes us over for the hour there. So yeah, we'll follow those other ones there. But, yeah, that was a fantastic question. So thanks everyone for getting involved, and I'd like to thank Glenn and I've got Glenn and Glenn on my screen right now. So Glenn and Wayne, I should say. So thanks very much, guys, for your time today. I hope everyone got something out of it. And yeah, there's the details there. We'll send some of the recording out afterwards and some more of their details there. So if you guys have questions or like to follow up with the team, please feel free to reach out. And always keen to hear feedback, what everyone thought. So thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, everyone.